Well, 4 years ago, our politicians decriminalised abortion and introduced one of the most liberal and extreme laws in the world, effectively legalising abortion to 40 weeks with token safeguards. And remember, the law was rammed through by our politicians in March 2020, when we as a nation were all preparing to go into lockdown for COVID in order to protect the most vulnerable amongst us. But our then Prime Minister had recently had her first child, prioritised this liberalisation of abortion. It really seems a sick joke, doesn't it? And the latest stats will also make you feel sick. So last week we obtained a copy of the latest abortion stats from pro-life group Right to Life. They'd done an Official Information Act request, and the interesting thing is that you probably haven't heard about this data, even though media releases went out announcing it. Unless you received our email newsletter on Saturday, perhaps. The media suddenly don't want to talk about abortion, when they normally want to promote it and push it and punish anyone who doesn't agree with it. But nope, silence at the moment. The latest abortion stats make grim and upsetting reading, with a 25% increase in abortions since the decriminalisation of abortion in March 2020, 4 years ago. According to an Official Information Act request by Right to Life, the provisional figures, which will be very close to the final confirmed figures released in November, they show a 14% increase in abortions from 14,164 abortion procedures in 2022 to 16,214 last year. It's the highest number of abortions since 2011, as you can see on the graph there. Abortions have been falling and remaining at a low level until 2021, when they started trending upwards. And this latest figure represents an average of almost 45 children per day killed in the mother's womb in New Zealand. 45 per day. If you look at the trend from when the law was liberalised and decriminalised under Jacinda Ardern's watch and promotion, but with support of the majority of politicians in the House at the time, from 2020 there's been a 25% increase in abortions, when the number was just 12,948. 25% increase. Maybe that's why the media haven't been keen to tell you about this. They know that this is a death cult dressed up in reproductive freedom. However, this increase is a sad reality which we predicted would happen when the law was changed. Now, medical abortions are also on the increase, well above surgical procedures. And that's because pro-abortionists think that early abortions are somehow better. That's like saying it's okay to kill a young child, but not an older child. It just doesn't make sense. It's still a life. It still harms a pregnant woman, both physically and emotionally. But there's a big push for medical abortions, with phone consultations and telemedicine, abortions done at home, do-it-yourself abortions. Now, the blue line is the early medical abortions, and the orange line is surgical abortions. Now, if you think that early medical abortions sounds better, you need to watch Dr. Norman McLean on our YouTube channel explain exactly what they are and why early medical abortions are still problematic for the unborn child and for the woman. In fact, let me just show you a short excerpt of that.
This is a procedure in which the mother swallows pills in order to terminate her baby. The procedure involves 2 steps. The first step, at the abortion clinic or doctor's office, the woman takes pills which contain mifepristone, also called RU486. RU486 blocks the action of a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone is a naturally occurring hormone produced in the mother's body to stabilize the lining of the uterus. When RU486 blocks progesterone, the lining of the mother's uterus breaks down, cutting off blood and nourishment to the baby, who then dies inside the mother's womb. It is important to know that even after it has been taken, it is possible to reverse the effects of RU486 and save the baby if progesterone is administered soon after the drug is taken. Step 2. 1 to 2 days after the RU486, the woman takes another drug, misoprostol, also called Cytotec, and this drug is taken either orally by mouth or vaginally. RU486 and misoprostol working together cause severe cramping, contractions, and often heavy bleeding to force the dead baby out of the woman's uterus. The process can be very intense and painful, and the bleeding and contractions can last from a few hours to several days. While she could lose the baby anytime and anywhere during this process, the woman will often sit on a toilet as she prepares to expel the child, which she will then flush. She may even see her dead baby within the pregnancy sac. At 9 weeks of gestation, for example, the baby will be almost 1 inch in length, and if the mother looks carefully, she might be able to see the arms and legs. After the mother has disposed of her baby, bleeding may well continue to occur. This can last between 1 and 2 weeks and occasionally last more than 30 days. This bleeding can require the mother to be hospitalized if it continues to be heavy and troublesome. This failure rate increases as the pregnancy gestation increases. If failure occurs, she will usually be offered a surgical abortion. For the mother, medical abortion often causes abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and heavy bleeding. Very rarely, maternal deaths have occurred, most frequently due to infection and undiagnosed ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah, now according to the Abortion Services Aotearoa New Zealand report last year covering abortions up to the end of 2022, 220 women suffered complications, including hemorrhaging, retained products, infections, even failed abortions. And there was a 40% increase of failed abortions, and this risk was greater with medical abortions. 60% of the complications were with medical abortions. For 57 medical abortions, they couldn't even find the woman to follow up. Is that safe, high quality health outcome? No, I don't think so either. But the report says, well, it's only a small proportion, just 60 women. Who cares? And you can watch that full video of Dr. Norman McLean on our YouTube channel, both medical and surgical abortions. But the Ministry of Health and abortion supporters think it's just like Uber Eats, where you get the medication and do it at home. No supervision, no support, just like ordering pizza. Now, the report last year, the obsession with Maori, I think, is quite galling to me. The report last year had a whole section on responsiveness to Maori as part of its commitments to, apparently, the principles of equity and with the intention of achieving equitable abortion health outcomes. Well, there's only one outcome, isn't there? Death of the unborn child. A vision, they say, for abortion services that focus on services meeting the needs of rangatahi Māori. Apparently this is equity. More abortion services for Māori. Easy abortions. What about the needs of the unborn rangatahi, the unborn Māori child? And there was even a focus on late-term abortions, especially for Māori, in line with the Treaty of Waitangi. So the Ministry of Health published the New Zealand Aotearoa Abortion Clinical Guideline in 2021. Because remember, the politicians said that killing an unborn child shouldn't be a crime. So it was about health, apparently. Not for the child, though. And so the Ministry of Health published guidelines. And they had this section. And yeah, it's pretty shocking. But it talks about Māori and abortion late term. And just it's quite galling to read. Tino rangatiratanga. Health practitioners support the right of Māori to undergo an abortion post 20 weeks gestation. Conceptualising the person's decision to have an abortion is a continuation of a much older Maori collective endorsed practice of determining one's own health and well-being around that of the whānau. Remember, this is late-term abortions. Partnership. Health practitioners work in partnership with Maori who are having an abortion post 20 weeks gestation to make decisions that will enhance their rangatiratanga, or self-determination over the process, while exercising mana motuhake, or authority over their bodies and reproductive health. And a section on active protection. Health practitioners ensure Māori have evidence-based information about the post-20 weeks abortion process so that they can make decisions and preparations that will uphold their tikanga, or cultural practice. For example, karakia, prayer, rongoa, support person, container for and a location to place fetal tissue or fetus and placenta. Remember, this is late-term abortions. It's quite sickening, isn't it? But here's an interesting observation. The higher the deprivation, in other words, the poorer the parents, the more likely for an abortion, which is one of the sad realities of abortion. Often the decision is made based on economics. We can't afford a child. But that is not a solution. We need to support parents so that abortion is not an option. We need policies that give life. But our politicians have been focused on giving death. Now, as we said at the time of the debate, to remove legislation about abortion from the criminal code and to insert it to the health code is to equate a procedure to remove an unborn baby with a procedure to remove an appendix, kidney stones, gallbladders or tonsils. It's simply tissue removed as part of a health procedure. This is the narrative they want. But our abortion law denies the humanity of the baby, and again, it creates inconsistency with other legislation, public health messaging for pregnant women, which clearly recognises the rights of the unborn child. Live healthily, don't smoke, be careful what you eat. But as we all know, anybody who has viewed the ultrasound of an unborn child will know that this policy is a gross abuse of human rights. The humanity of the child is not based on whether it's wanted or not wanted. It should never be based on that. I mean, that worked in the 70s, but it's flat earth science now. We've seen the fetal development. To support abortion, you have to park your conscience in a deep, dark vault. Abortion denies the humanity of the unborn child. And so with this increase in abortions, we will continue to fight for the rights of the unborn child and the welfare of the pregnant mum. And we have a very important speaker, a woman who survived an abortion, coming to speak at our Forum on the Family. Go to forumonthefamily.nz to register. You want to hear what she has to say. We need to continue to fight for what's right.